A reckoning in shadows. Eleanor Whitlock's return to her hometown was both a journey into memory and a descent into guilt. The once vibrant community she had left behind decades ago was now a hollow shell. Buildings sagged under the weight of neglect, streets were cracked and overgrown, and the air seemed to hum with despair. The bustling energy of her youth was gone, replaced by silence punctuated by distant cries and shouts. She had fled this place as a young woman, leaving behind the grime of crime, poverty, and prostitution to build a life of wealth and influence. But her escape had not been clean. In her desperation to leave, Eleanor had broken into the mayor's office and stolen a large sum of money meant to revitalize the struggling town. That money had been her ticket out, her means to forge a new identity. Now, standing in the decaying remains of her old neighborhood, she saw the price of her actions. The town hadn't just stagnated, it had rotted. Crime was rampant, and hope was a distant memory. Her purpose in returning was clear. One of the 12 children she was destined to save lived here. Eleanor had tracked her to a rundown apartment block on the edge of town. The girl's name was Abigail, and she was only 12 years old. Eleanor's investigation revealed a haunting parallel. Abigail was in the exact same position Eleanor had been years ago. Her mother had died from illness, and her father was absent, leaving Abigail to fend for herself. She was already entangled with a local gang, tempted by promises of protection and wealth. When Eleanor found Abigail, the girl was pacing nervously outside a decrepit warehouse. A gang leader had offered her a chance to prove herself by stealing from the local community center, a small, struggling institution that was one of the few lifelines for the town's children. Eleanor's heart sank. She saw herself in Abigail's defiant eyes, her trembling hands, her torn clothes. "Abigail," Eleanor called gently, stepping out from the shadows. The girl froze, her wide eyes scanning Eleanor suspiciously. "Who are you? What do you want?" "I'm here to help," Eleanor said. "I know what you're feeling. The desperation, the fear, the anger. You don't know anything about me," Abigail spat. "I don't need help." "Yes, you do," Eleanor said softly. "Because I was you. I stood where you stand now. And I made a choice that destroyed everything I left behind." Eleanor told Abigail her story. How she had stolen from the town, leaving its people to suffer. How her selfishness had fed a cycle of misery that engulfed the neighborhood. She didn't sugarcoat her guilt or make excuses. She laid it bare, hoping Abigail would see the consequences of the path she was about to take. But Abigail wasn't convinced. "You got out," she said bitterly. "You got rich. Why shouldn't I do the same?" "Because it won't save you," Eleanor said. "It will haunt you. And it will destroy the people you leave behind." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the gang leader, a hulking man with a cruel smile and a pack of thugs at his back. Well, he sneered, looking Eleanor over. "Who's this?" "Your fairy godmother." "She's nobody," Abigail said quickly, stepping in front of Eleanor. "I'll do what you asked." "No," Eleanor said firmly, stepping forward. "She won't," the gang leader's smile faltered. "You've got guts, lady. But this isn't your fight." Eleanor squared her shoulders. "It is now." The confrontation erupted into chaos. The gang surrounded Eleanor, but she fought with a ferocity born of desperation and guilt. She was no longer the frightened girl who had fled this town. She was a woman who had faced demons, both literal and metaphorical. Abigail watched in shock as Eleanor held her ground, refusing to let the gang take her or the girl. But when the fight turned against Eleanor, Abigail made her choice. She picked up a broken pipe and joined the fray, her small frame moving with surprising speed and precision. Together, they drove the gang back, their leader snarling threats as he retreated. In the aftermath, Eleanor turned to Abigail. "You made the right choice," she said. Abigail's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to be like them," she whispered. "But I don't know how to survive any other way." Eleanor placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let me help you. Not just you, but this town. I can't undo what I did, but I can start making it right. Eleanor stayed in the town for weeks, using her resources to repair the damage she had caused. She funded the community center, provided jobs for struggling families, and worked to root out the gangs that had taken hold. Abigail became her partner in this mission, her youthful energy and insight helping Eleanor connect with the town's younger generation. Together, they began to rebuild not just the neighborhood, but the hope that had been lost. Though Eleanor knew she still had 11 more children to save, she also understood that saving Abigail and her hometown was the first step in redeeming herself, and proving that even the darkest past could be turned toward the light.